All right, welcome to the first Mindset Digital MEGASTREAM. My name is Pete Brown. I am Creative Director at Mindset Digital. I'm also host of the Mindset Digital Podcast. And if you haven't checked out the Mindset Digital Podcast, you can find it on iTunes, you can find it on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and you can find it at mindsetdigital.com/podcast. Now next week we're dropping our new episode. It's our live streaming showdown. It's where we really take apart what's happened in the live streaming space in the past year since live streaming got some mainstream traction with apps like Periscope and Meerkat coming out of South by Southwest. So now as we were recording this, we realized it would be silly to do a podcast about live streaming without live streaming part of the podcast. So that's what we're doing today. You're going to see part of the Mindset Digital Podcast get recorded, but you're also going to really be privy to what we believe is the first mega stream, certainly for Mindset Digital, because we are live on 4 networks right now. We are on Periscope, we are on Facebook live streaming, we are on Meerkat. Kevin, are you nodding? Yeah? We are on Meerkat, and we are live on YouTube. So we're super excited about that. I want to just tell you a little bit about the thinking that went into creating the mega stream, right? We have quite a bit of experience with Periscope here at Mindset Digital because occasionally we are hired to manage the back channel for a large event or a conference, and we use Periscope as part of that strategy. We do interviews, we do behind the scenes, we'll talk to speakers before or after they go up and speak. So I said, well, for sure, let's use Periscope to live stream the podcast. Then Wiener said we should use Meerkat too because they were first to market. And I don't know how much of the story you know. We break it down in detail in next week's podcast, but Meerkat launched at South by Southwest in March 2015. It was the darling of the festival. But shortly thereafter, Twitter launched a competing app called Periscope, which started to take away some of Meerkat's thunder and their steam, right? Then in August of last year, Facebook launched live streaming. Now they launched live streaming only for special people, celebrities and so forth, but they rolled it out to the rest of us this year. Thank you, Facebook. And we do have some experience here live streaming to Facebook as well. And then finally, I wanted to mention YouTube because you've been able to live stream on YouTube for some time, but not from a mobile phone. To do that, you need a third-party app, and we are using one today called Emoze. I'm looking, yeah, we're using Emoze. However, as I speak, we anticipate Google releasing something called YouTube Connect, which was first reported at the end of March. And YouTube Connect will allow you to live stream from your phone natively to your YouTube channel. So if you're joining us from any of these channels, first of all, welcome. Glad to see you. If you're on Periscope, give us some hearts. And if you want to shout out, say hello. We're going to do shout outs at the end of the MEGACast. Sorry, tripping up there. It's live, folks. If you're on Facebook, leave a comment. Use those new reactions. Say hello. Let us know how you like it. If you're on Meerkat, I know you can use a little emoji. You can also heart things. To be honest, we're interested to see who's still around on Meerkat. So do shout out. And if you have any questions throughout the show, add them up because we've got a team who's monitoring these streams and they're going to bring them back in and we'll get to them all at the end. I want to tell you how we're doing the mega stream. When we first came up with the idea to stream on all 4 channels at once, my thought was, well, we'll just grab a bunch of the millennials at the office and they can stand there with their phones and they can record this. This is typically what they look like when I ask them to do something here, so this didn't work out so well. And this part of the podcast, to be honest, features the millennials as guests. So I need them on there as guests. That means we need a way for one person to manage this, and that way is something we're calling the Streaminator. So the Streaminator is a camera rig that we've designed and built. It's gone through a number of iterations. We've spent almost $7 putting this thing together. I'm going to give you there's a quick look at the finished product here. And we're going to try this with the lights. We'll see how this looks. I'm going to show you live with this mirror what we got going. Yeah, there's Kevin. And Kevin is running the mega stream. Very good. You got it?
I think I got them all. Yeah. All right.
All right. And just before we go, I just want to throw it to my team there that you can see monitoring this on various channels again. So if you have comments or questions, they're there to capture that. By the way, I want you guys to know if you have something untoward to say about myself or any of our guests, you're certainly welcome to do it, but my man Jessica James is going to come by and block you very quickly. So this is my favorite part of every podcast, and we like to end every podcast with something that's really funny, that's going to make people laugh. So traditionally what we do is we bring in Becca the Millennial. So Becca, come on in now.
Hi, Pete.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
How do you think the MEGASTREAM's going so far?
Fantastic, looks great.
And if you had to guess, what this is doing for my career, is it moving it up? Is it moving it down?
No, I mean
All right,
upwards.
very good. So Becca comes in at the end of the podcast with something that she's found that's supposed to make me laugh, right? And so just looking quickly, in episode 1, you showed me like a Tumblr page where somebody had discovered that you could take any cartoon from the New Yorker and change the caption to, "Hi, I'd like to add you to my LinkedIn, my professional network on LinkedIn," and the cartoon became funnier, right? So that was good. That was a good find, right? And then in episode 2, we went with, this was Christmas Day hoverboard, swimming pool fail, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to play this video for you, but you can look at it both at mindsetdigital.com/podcast, where they are in the show notes, okay? But after the second episode, right, you told me, this is what I thought. I thought this was a choice assignment for you. Like I was giving you the best job I had to get out of the company, which is find some funny stuff on the internet that's going to make me laugh. And you said it was very stressful
It
for
was
you.
very stressful.
And why is that?
I had to find something guaranteed to make you laugh, and there's a big difference in our humor and our age.
Yeah.
So what I think is funny might not translate very well.
I gotcha. All right, no worries, no worries. So what we decided to do was, for this episode, I would find something on the internet that would make you laugh. Is that right?
Yes.
Very good.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, and then I was so confident in what I found, I said that I would find something that would make all the millennials in the office laugh. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so we're going to bring in some more millennials now. Come on in, guys. All right, so first of all, let's see who's here. We've got Briavel.
A.
Hi, Briavel. If you listen to the podcast, you'll recognize Briavel. She does the up tops there, and I know you have you're going to have an interview in the next one.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
yes.
very good. We'll see
Yeah.
how that goes. And you work for me directly too, so that's
I
just got to
do.
be a joy and a delight. Very good. You could say yes louder. I could get that on record.
Yes.
Nice, thank you. All right, and then Wiener. How are you, Wiener?
Good. How are you, Pete?
I'm doing well. You feeling nervous?
I'm
You
getting
look
all
a little
sorts
bit
of
nervous. You want to
cues
shake it out a little
either
bit?
like raise my arms or speak more loudly.
I
So-
think
I
they want us
gotcha.
to speak more loudly.
All right, very nice. So, and I'm sure right now we're getting lots of comments of people going, Wiener's not a millennial. I just want to clarify, you just turned 30,
I did.
right? So you
Yeah.
just squeaked in
Yeah.
under the millennial definition, right?
Great.
Like if you were like 6 months older, you'd be Gen Y. Is that true?
I was never clear where the cutoff was either. I
Okay.
feel like a millennial at heart.
And why is that?
That's actually not true.
All right. For our purposes today, Wiener counts as a millennial. Okay. So millennials, I want to ask you some questions about television. Okay. So first of all, here's what's interesting. I'm Gen X, right? And I was arguably the first television generation. So I was born and there was always television. All right, my parents, they remember growing up without television and then what it was like when people started to get televisions, right? You're millennials. You're not quite digital natives, right? Because you might be able to remember a time before the internet in your lives. But for most of your lives, you've had that. So here's my question. When I was little, if I was watching television, say on a Saturday afternoon or after school, we'd watch reruns of old shows. So I grew up in the 70s and 80s, but the shows that were being shown sort of in syndication and on reruns were from the 50s and 60s, okay? So I'm wondering what shows would that be for you? When you were growing up and you're like, oh, I'm watching this old show, what would that have been?
Home Improvement.
Home Improvement?
What?
Terrible.
Yeah.
That
Cannot
was
see
not
that show.
terrible. And that show was her. And you had JTT just hitting his prime.
That's true.
Tim Allen in his prime.
You know, we should have rehearsed this beforehand, because if I knew you were going to say something about Home Improvement, I would have put a person between you and Wiener. He's very passionate about his Home Improvement.
This is not going to help the I'm actually a millennial argument, but I remember F Troop reruns.
Okay, very good. That's a black and white show. How about you, Briavel?
I actually remember watching I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I think my parents thought that was safer, going back to the 50s.
Nice.
Were you like pre-belly button Dream of Genie or post-belly button?
Post belly button.
Nice.
Those were the best years.
I think we go into that, but just to clarify, Wiener, my boss is right over here. Okay. All right, who knows what this show is that we're looking at now? Any idea, Briavelle?
Andy Griffith? No.
Andy Griffith, it's good. It's a good try. They're both black and white shows.
Is it Mr. Ed?
Mr. Ed, all right, nice. Have any of you ever seen an episode of Mr. Ed?
Yes.
All right, Wiener, can you tell us what is Mr. Ed, and make sure you lean in because
Sure.
we're recording for the podcast and the mega stream at the same time.
Sure. So a horse is a horse. Of course, of course. That's actually all I remember. He's a talking horse, and he has an owner, and I was really never clear what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, so this is a show Mr. Ed was on from 1961 to 1966. Okay, this would be a show that I would watch as a rerun as a child. And Mr. Ed was this talking horse. This was his owner. His name was Wilbur. He was played by a man named Alan Young. And the joke with Mr. Ed was that he would talk, but only to Wilbur. So oftentimes the narrative would steer to a place where Wilbur needed Mr. Ed to kind of back him up on something, and he'd be like, "You tell him, Ed," and Mr. Ed wouldn't talk, right? And you would get so frustrated, but he would only talk to Wilbur. A couple of things that I thought were real interesting about it. Mr. Ed is actually, right, it comes out of something called Francis the Talking Mule. So Mr. Ed was in the 60s. In the 50s, in the decade previous, there was a series of films which were wildly popular and wildly successful, and they were about a talking mule named Francis. I just want to, if we can show Becca for a second. This is this look that she gives me where I'm like, she is just absolutely not getting this. So, okay. So I always thought this was weird, like Mr. Ed was a ripoff of Francis the Talking Mule. As it turns out, the director of these films, and Francis, he would go to Washington, he went to West Point, he had all these adventures, was the same director as Mr. Ed, who wanted to make it into a TV series and he couldn't get the rights. So he got Mr. Ed, which he actually licensed from some children's stories from the 30s. But then this went on, and I just want to bring this up quickly, a show called Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp.
What?
Okay, so now we're not really dealing with horses or mules, but this is a show entirely chimpanzees wearing clothes, but talking to each other, right? And it's a secret agent show. And what I think is interesting about this is I think our cultural hunger for talking animal shows kind of peaked at this point, right? Because do you guys remember, would you have any that are relevant to you that you can remember wanting to talk about?
I watched Dr. Dolittle a lot,
Okay.
but the animals didn't actually speak.
Yeah.
Dr. Dolittle translated.
Does anybody want to know how they made Mr. Ed talk? Like the special effect that they used?
Is it animal cruelty?
Yeah, so maybe a little bit. So closely guarded. So the myth is that they used peanut butter, that they would put peanut butter in his mouth and it would make him do this. But other people reported for the first season they actually had threads on his upper and lower lips.
Oh my gosh.
And they would do this to make him talk. I know, right? But special effects is important in what I have to show you today. So, and then after that, he allegedly learned how to do it kind of on command. So good for him. Mr. Ed, by the way, was played by a horse named Bamboo Harvester, right? Which I like because that is totally going to be the next job I get after I get fired for this thing that's going on right now. That's just a joke. Making sure. All right, the boss is like, okay, just a joke. Like, one other thing I'm going to just share you about Francis the Talking Mule, because I looked up today the name of the voice actor who did Francis's voice, and it is the greatest name I've ever heard. Anybody? You're good at bar trivia. No? All right. Never forget this. The voice of Francis the Talking Mule was an actor named Chill Willis.
What?
I know, isn't
That's
that good?
awesome.
All right, so that's some value for you. Okay. So we're going to switch now. We got any baseball fans here? Can you tell me who we're looking at now? No. Are you guys aware that this is a baseball player?
Looks like it.
Okay. Well, you're looking at a man named Sandy Koufax. Okay, Sandy Koufax was a pitcher around the same time Mr. Ed was popular. Very, very, very good. Okay, in his career, he threw 4 no-hitters. He threw a perfect game. He pitched through the 1960s. A little bit faster, okay, in the 1970s. By the 1970s, he was the youngest person ever elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Okay, so what I want to show you today that's going to make you laugh is a hugely important cultural moment where Mr. Ed meets Sandy Koufax. And it went down in 1963, and I just want to point out one more thing. In 1958, the Brooklyn Dodgers moved to Los Angeles, right? We think of Brooklyn as a cool, hip place now, but it was on hard times then. And by the time Mr. Ed came out, it's like driving the final nail in the coffin. The Dodgers are now going to be a Los Angeles type entity. Okay, so you guys ready to see this?
Let's do
Yep.
it.
Oh, I'm sorry. First, I want to talk about the 1990s. It's called building tension. If you guys had come to some of my brown bag sessions on storytelling, you'd know. What were you guys doing in the early 1990s?
Being born.
You were being born,
Yep.
Becca. Okay.
I was born, so.
Also born.
Starting school.
Weir was starting school. Okay, so a little treat for you guys. This is what I look like.
That's
I
awesome.
That's so great.
I know, right? That's young Pete Brown as a college freshman at Ohio University, right? Hanging out. This is my car. It was an AmeriCore XR4 Ti Turbo. Pretty nice, right? So why do I want to tell you? I want to tell you what college was like in the early 1990s, okay? Because you would go out at night, right? What would happen in my dorm, all the guys would be like this, and my friend Brady would dump Paul Sebastian cologne on our hands, and we'd put it on, and we'd go out at night, right? And then you would get separated, you know, if you went to a club or a party or whatever, and then that was it. You wouldn't see your friends until probably the next day, right? Because we didn't have cell phones. And so, and this happened all the time. I can't tell you how many times I went out with a group, and then I came home by myself at 2:30 in the morning and kind of waited for people to dribble in, okay? Now we're getting a little close to me getting fired, so I'm going to just wrap this story up quickly, right? And actually it occurred to me the other day that it happened to me so much that possibly I was just ditched on a regular basis by this group of people for 4 years, and I never know, right? But one evening, I came home, it was about 2:30 in the morning, and I put on the TV, and Mr. Ed was on, okay? So I'm watching Mr. Ed, all right? And I remember this very clearly because it had been a complex evening for me socially. I have a hard time with social cues. I didn't understand a lot of what was going on. I remember Mr. Ed came on, and I thought, oh, thank God. It's just a simple narrative that I can follow. My brain can unwind. I know that something's going to happen with him and Wilbur, right? And as it turns out, Mr. Ed goes to Dodger Stadium to meet Sandy Koufax and Leo DeRoche. Do you guys want to know why he goes, or can we just kind of see the clip?
Let's just see
See
the
the
clip.
clip.
Are you sure? Because this is a good part of the story.
Will the clip tell us?
Okay, so let's just say there's a good reason that Mr. Ed was there, right? Because there was actually a phone in his stall, and he used his phone to call Leo DeRocher, who managed the Dodgers, to give him some advice. And DeRocher, not knowing he's talking to a horse, because how would you on a phone, says, why don't you come out to the park? Okay, so Mr. Ed comes out to the park, and everybody's there like wondering why Wilbur and his horse are on the field, and he picks up a bat in his mouth, okay? So that's about where we're going to pick up this clip. Now, before we go, here's the thing about live streaming. I have no idea if I have the rights to show this on air. So what we're going to do is turn this monitor, and I apologize for you watching the MEGACast, but check into the podcast next week, and you'll be able to get the link to this clip and watch it yourself, right? But although it is on YouTube, I honestly don't know the right situation. It's one of the things about live streaming that's a little bit tricky. All right, you ready, millennials?
Ready.
Ready.
I just want you to know your life is going to change, okay, after you've seen this clip. It's that
You know we got a big game tonight. Ignore my horse. He's just a show off. It was the horse's idea, Leo. We looked around and there he is with a bat in his mouth.
It'll make a great publicity shot, Leo.
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
Say, is it okay if Sandy tosses one to him nice and easy?
Yeah. Ed wants to make a fool of himself. It's okay with me.
All right. Sandy, nice and easy, huh, buddy? Okay, John.
Did you see that?
I don't believe it.
Slide it! Slide! That's the smartest horse I ever saw. He's not so smart. Forgot to touch second base.
That was pretty good, right?
Oh, good. Yeah.
Right, so let me tell you, I am, first of all, totally relieved that you guys laughed, because I showed my kids last night and they did not laugh at that at all, right? So, but here's why I think it's so funny, right? You're following this absurdity where you've accepted a talking horse who can call a baseball manager on the phone and get invited to the park and even pick up a bat and take batting practice after the great Sandy Koufax hit an inside the park home run. And then when he goes to slide, which by the way, if you look, the catcher was climbing up on the backstop, right?
Yeah.
That didn't need to slide at all. He had a clear path. What's clearly a plastic model being dragged by a string, and then it just punctuates, right? It's like, did you think that Mr. Ed was sliding for real?
No, I didn't think about it.
Okay. Mr. Ed slide is one of the greatest things. So I was worried that you weren't going to laugh, so I queued up a second thing for you guys to watch while we take some questions and do some shout-outs, all right? So millennials, I want you to go ahead and enjoy. This is Fritz the Golden Retriever trying to catch food.
Oh,
So,
oh.
all right, I'm going to just turn off the music here. All right, Mr. Kevin,
Mhm.
I'm going to bring this up here. How are we doing with the stream? Still going? Okay,
Yeah.
so what do we got here?
It's a donut.
Are these organized
Whose
as...
dog is this?
Okay, so here we go. We're going to start here with Wasami.
Sammy.
Oh, that's at Sammy. Sammy says, say what? This is in reference to my college days. Nice, Sammy. I'll tell you what, I'll print out that picture for you, put it in your cubicle. This is, you look cool, keeping it level. This is what they had to say, okay? So a couple questions. Is Meerkat even in the game anymore? So I will say, tune into the podcast and we'll detail what Meerkat's doing. They are certainly working, and hopefully there are people watching us on Meerkat, Steve. But they haven't updated the apps in September, and they are getting ready to pivot and reinvent themselves with Google getting in the game with YouTube Connect, Facebook live stream, and Periscope all coming out. I think Meerkat sees that live streaming itself probably isn't enough to build a whole social network around. All right, Donald asks, how much did the Streaminator cost and where can I get one? We did spend probably $7. I'm not kidding. This is some PVC pipe from the store, and then we took apart a bunch of selfie sticks. I will tell you, we spent a good deal of time working on audio solutions, and we haven't quite arrived at one. So if you haven't been able to hear us, I apologize. But that is one of the banes of live streaming that we're still working on. So, all right, so that's it for questions and call-outs.
Anne did comment that Mr. Ed has still got it.
Mr. Ed does still got it. So I'm glad that
And
came in.
Samantha said Mindset Digital rocks. Can't wait to laugh.
Nice. Okay. So I think with that, we're going to wrap up the very first Mindset Digital Megacast. First of all, how do you guys think it went? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Awesome.
Are you guys just saying that because if it went
Because our
for-
boss is right there.
Yeah, very good. So, but also I think it was a lot of fun.
It was
Yeah.
a lot of
No,
fun.
it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing to remember. If the
And
stuff
you
isn't
look great
fun,
on orange.
it is not worth doing. So, all right. So we are going to wrap up now. Thanks for joining us on the first ever Mindset Digital Megacast. MEGASTREAM. Trademark.
And I think we're out.
Yay!